Hello, clever people, and welcome to my review for Gifted. So Gifted is directed by Mark Webb, the man behind the film 500 Days of Summer, and behind the two Amazing Spider-Man films, and it follows Chris Evans, who owns this child, played by McKenna Grace. Basically, his sister died, and he inherited the child, and has been raising her for a while, but when she first goes to school for first grade, she astounds the teacher with her incredible math skills, and the teacher said that she might be gifted, so she wants to place her in a gifted school. However, it's more complicated than that, the teacher realizes, as she discovers all the complexities that are among this family. And the grandma starts coming in and wants to claim custody of the child so that the child can be put into gifted schools so that the child can, work towards college mathematics. So it's a giant custody battle between both Chris Evans and the mother, and also about the lives around those characters and how this one little girl affects all of them around her. I was a tad excited to see Gifted. I thought that the trailers actually looked quite good, and I really do like 500 Days of Summer, which is another film by Mark Webb. He did make the two Amazing Spider-Man films, which the first one I actually kind of like. I think it's a bit underrated, but the other one, The Amazing Spider-Man 2, I admit that that one's a mess. I still had some fun with it, but it is just a giant sloppy mess. And now he went back from that big budget era to this smaller film. So he went to make this film that sort of feels close to home to him. He made 500 Days of Summer, which was a smaller film that a lot of people liked. Then he went on to make those two that got mixed reviews at best. So now he's back to this smaller film, and I gotta say, I think I like this area for Mark Webb. He works better in these sort of smaller films that don't have big scopes, that have giant stars, nothing like that. It's better when he just sort of has these smaller projects. So that's kind of why I was excited to see Gifted. However, I sort of knew that I wasn't really going to get a great film, an astonishing film. I wasn't going to really get a film that was going to do anything new, and that's sort of what I got. Gifted is absolutely just a sweet, lighthearted, enjoyable movie. And honestly, it doesn't try to be too much more than that. Some people will say that it's like a Lifetime movie. Some people will say it's a Hallmark movie. I wouldn't quite put it to that standard. I would say that it's just sort of a light, enjoyable time. The performances in it absolutely are strong, and I am glad that this movie had convincing performances, because that honestly could make or break the movie. But thankfully, Chris Evans, he's not always huge and in your face about everything. He's a little drawn back at the beginning, and he starts to sort of become very dramatic towards the end, but it sort of worked with his character and his arc. You believed that he wanted to have this child, and that what he believed was the best for this child. Octavia Spencer was there to be Octavia Spencer. She didn't really do much else. She was fine in the movie. She didn't detract from it. But definitely a standout here is McKenna Grace, because I'm not sure of her age. I think she's like 7 or 8, but she was terrific in this movie. She displayed a lot of emotion. At times you could tell she was a young actress, and that detracted a little bit. But for the most part, she was actually very, very good in this movie. And something else I like about this movie is the question it asks. It asks the question of, can the next genius also be a normal person at the same time? And it's because in this modern day, our perception is that if we have a super smart person, we have to milk them to their fullest potential and try to get everything that we can out of them before they die. But there's also the question of the human condition, of what they lived through. And thankfully, the film explored that side and not just the mathematics. It focused a lot on the mathematics and how smart she was, but it also focused on the dynamic between both her and Chris Evans. They have this great scene together, these great two scenes, where at first Chris Evans gets angry at her, and then he sort of talks to her and tries to make her be okay with him. And these two scenes could have been super cliched. In fact, they did have some cliches in them, but they weren't overdone. They were actually quite enjoyable, and you sort of got to see the other side to these characters before the whole lawsuit went down. You got to see the type of people that they were outside of it, and I'm glad the movie did not focus just on the math, and through that they were able to ask that very question. It's a question that has not been asked too many times in cinema, if a genius can have a normal life. I think it may have been asked once or twice before, but this is really one of the first movies to address it, and I'm glad that they addressed it in the way that they did. Now here's the thing, that people have compared it to a Hallmark movie, and there is kind of a good reason for that, because Gifted does have a lot of scenes of emotional manipulation, where they're trying to make it seem that the little girl, because she's so smart, she says something really smart and you're supposed to laugh at it. A lot of it, the emotional manipulation and the comedy, did sort of feel like they were from a Hallmark movie. Look, the comedy in this film is not awful. It's fine. It's just that the emotional manipulation did get in the way of what was going on at times. It sort of made the drama feel less legitimate, because you had these, possibly great dramatic scenes, and they went a bit on the emotional manipulation. Towards the end of the movie, it didn't quite feel like that, and in fact, it did deliver on a lot of the emotional beats a bit stronger than your traditional drama like this does. However, when it did go for that emotional manipulation, it sort of detracted from what the movie was going towards. And the movie at times could be over-cinematic. The biggest time that it's over-cinematic is the courtroom. Now look, there is a very smart way to do a courtroom scene, such as the scene in To Kill a Mockingbird. That courtroom scene will never be old, and the reason why is because it's realistic, but it also appeals to the emotion of what's going on. You see characters crying, you see the emotion in the characters, yet at the same time what's going on around them is not, dramatic or overdone. What's going on around them is serious on the topic at hand, like the juror or other people, going for the case. But in this movie, you have it so that there's scenes where characters are yelling at each other in the courtroom, and yelling in that situation doesn't work. And To Kill a Mockingbird, it was a calm foundation, and when characters did yell, it wasn't the people defending those, it was the people who were being questioned because it was too much for them. Gifted has an issue in which when they are defending or going against something, they are yelling as loud as they can, and it really doesn't work. And honestly, Gifted is not memorable. It's not a movie at all that tries to do anything new or different. And honestly, it's really hard to fault it at that at an extreme degree, because the movie is just trying to be a light-hearted, fun time. And, it's hard to really get too in-depth with a film like that. However, it could have done a few things differently to make it a bit different, but honestly, in the end of the day, I just really had a good time with Gifted. It's not a movie I'll remember. I don't want to see it over and over again. I won't buy the Blu-ray, but I did go into the theater, I watched it, and I had a good time. And if a movie can deliver on that, then it at least deserves a positive grade, and that is why I will be giving Gifted a 6 out of 10. Expect a packed week this week because I have a lot of reviews to get out to you guys. I have to get a review out for The Promise. I'm hopefully seeing The Lost City of Z, maybe Born in China, maybe The Zookeeper's Wife. There's a lot of movies that I do need to see. Phoenix Forgotten 2. I will also be reviewing The Graduate because it is showing at the TCM Classic Series. I'm super excited for that. Just stay tuned for those reviews. But anyway, that concludes my review for Gifted. What are your thoughts on this film? Comment in the comment section below and let me know. I'm Robert Burke, and this has been The Clever Critics. Goodbye.